Okay, today I'm going to show you guys how to do an oil change for a Volkswagen Beetle. This should work for 2012 and up, since most of the platforms are the same. It might look a little different, but the concept is pretty much the same. First thing you're going to do is uncap this right here. Just put it somewhere where it's not going to fall or anything. Then you're going to jack it up. This is the oil filter right here. We'll get to that in a minute. But the jack points on the Beetle are right where this little lip is. So this is where it ends, this is where it starts. I have mine over here because I put the jack right here, so then it's in this general vicinity. So they're on the front and in the back, you'll see there. So I have the left side jacked up right now, and we're gonna do the right side and then get to it. Okay, now we have both sides jacked up. I leave the actual jack on one side, and then you have both jack stands underneath. So now we have the cap off. Next thing you want to do is pull out the dipstick. Most dipsticks will look like this. You just tug, should come out, and then place it somewhere where it's not going to get broken or anything, and you remember where it is. And then this line right here goes in these two things. You can just pop it up, move it out of the way, so then you have access to your oil filter. So next step is you're going to loosen this oil filter. I wouldn't take it all the way out yet. There's special tools that I have. You don't need it though. You can normally do it by hand unless it's extremely tight. But they do have these sockets that just go over the top of them. So just fits on like that, and then you can loosen it easily. So now you just loosen the oil filter. Just a little bit, and then I leave it like that. So you have this cap off, the dipstick, and the oil filter loose, and then we move to underneath the car. Okay, we're under the car now, front, under. You don't need to remove this shield because there's your oil pan right here. So grab something it can drain into about 5.5 quarts, maybe 6 quarts, depending on your vehicle. If it's a 4-cylinder, it's about 5.5 quarts. So the drain plug looks like that on the 2012. So this one is metal. You normally get a different O-ring, and sometimes you can get a new drain plug. But yeah, these ones are metals. The newer ones are not metal, they're plastic, and you have to replace them every single time. So this one is a T45, so you can grab the T45 and loosen it. Where's my towel?
It's like everywhere.
New O-ring. This is what the washer looks like. It's a crush washer. So you put it on there and it flattens, seals everything up. This is your tiny drain plug. Now you have the oil draining underneath. So we come back up to the top with the oil filter, and you can just unscrew it by hand.
So strong.
Most vehicles, the stock ones, will not have any of this stuff, so you can ignore pretty much all of this and just imagine it with the PCV, which is a black housing right there. And so if you get a little confused on some of this, that your car doesn't have it, just ignore it. So now that this is loose, you want to carefully, okay, if it ever comes undone, bring it up and try not to drip everywhere. And this is your oil filter. Okay, this is the new filter. If anybody is wondering, this is only for the 2012 Volkswagen Beetle if you have the metal housing one. Otherwise, it comes with a plastic housing. Your car does, and then this is normally just a filter insert, so if yours looks different, that's okay, it's for your car. But this is for the specific 2012, at least what I have. So I always get the man one, and I get it in black so then it looks better, but they come in white, it doesn't really matter. So now you can tell there's a little rubber seal right here. You don't have to, you could just put it straight on there, but normally I take a little bit of the old oil and just put it around the edges of it so that it becomes a little better. So you just get a little bit, put it on there just to seal it so maybe it doesn't crack, or not everybody does this, but that's just what I do. And then you can go ahead and put it back in there. For the tightness, normally hand tight is good. You don't want to over tighten anything. Otherwise, one, you're never going to get it off, and two, you might crack something, which is not good. So, you just tighten it on there. I'm going to use my little socket since I have it. Might as well use it. So, we just pop this little guy on there, tighten it. And then once it stops, you're good. And then you just take it off. So that's it. Okay, once you get a drip like this, if you're not patient, you can go ahead and put the little plug back in. Otherwise, you can wait till it pretty much stops dripping, but it doesn't really matter. Once you have everything off on the top, it allows to be, dripping, and then everything should come out. So we're not going to wait for it to stop. It's pretty much good. So you're just going to throw this back in here. If I can get it on or not get it on. There we go. So just lightly hand tighten it, and then you can move the big tub of oil out of the way. Go ahead and tighten it. This is the same thing as the top. I'm using a longer ratchet, so I have to be careful, but pretty much tighten it until you feel comfortable. You don't want to strip this at all, so don't tighten it too much because you will strip it. You need a new oil pan, and it's terrible. So, and then you just clean up around here. Should be good. Doesn't look like it's leaking. If it runs and it leaks, then check and make sure everything's tight, but that should be good. Also, when you have a new crush washer on there, you can watch it crush and become a little more flat, so everything should be good. Okay, so I'm using the Redline 540 Euro Series. That is my preference just because I have a bunch of modifications on my car, so I always use this for racing and daily driving and whatever, but you can use 1040, 540, sometimes I use 530, so just look in your owner's manual if you don't know. Those are just the basic ones that most people use and what the owner's manual recommend. Redline's a good one. It's also expensive. I also would use Motul or Liquid Moly just for if you're doing regular oil changes every 5,000 miles. I do them every 3,000 just because I do race this car. But I would look up at your owner's manual, see what they recommend, and then search up some brands if you want to get some knowledge on which one you might want to use, because they all are a little bit different, but also a little bit the same. So anyways, 540 for me, Euro Series, doesn't really matter. It's up to you and your car. Okay, so this is my 5th quart that I'm putting in. Mine takes about 5.5 quarts, so I still have a half quart left to go, but I'll show you you put the dipstick back in, and once you're, let's just say we've completed all of our quarts, which I still have a half quart, so it shouldn't be completely full yet. The dipstick is in there, so you let the oil settle a little bit. You pull it up. I'm just gonna wipe it clean. Okay, so once you put it in there, the oil level will mark on the dipstick. So when you take it out, you should be able to see on one side, it'll say the max or the min. It's really hard to see, but here's the min and it goes to the max. So it should be around this level right here. Here is good. If it's up here a little bit, that's okay. If you can't tell because it's all the way at the top of your dipstick, then you put a little bit too much in there and you should probably drain it out a little bit. If it's down here, then keep adding until it's up here. If it is up, let's just say right where my thumb is, or right where the max is said, after you've put 5.5 quarts in, that's okay, because when you run the car and get the oil warm, all the oil is going to circle through the car and then it goes up into your oil filter. If your oil filter is on the bottom of the car, it's a little easier to measure because as you throw in your oil, it'll go down to your oil filter. But right now we have just put in this oil filter, so there's nothing in it. So it'll suck in like maybe a half quart or a quarter of a quart. So if you happen to be more above max after you put everything in there, that's okay, because it'll probably go down once it cycles through the car and gets to every place that it needs to be. Okay, so now we have our dipstick in. This is tight. And we have our oil cap. So also, I forgot to mention, when you are pulling this out and measuring how much oil you have, make sure it's off the jacks and everything is flat. That way it's a little more accurate. And once you take it off the jacks, then you're able to run the car and get the oil through the system. So then we just put the cap in and turn it, make sure it clicks, and it should be good from there.